Hi friends, Kara Corey here and welcome back to the channel. And today's video, as you saw by the title, we're going to talk about the diets that can stay in 2022. We're going to discuss all the diet trends that happened in 2021 that actually were not bad trends. If you've been following my What the Health series, you maybe saw my last video about diet trends that need to die. We talked about some top fad diets that occurred in 2021. So none of that today. We're going to talk more positively about the best diets and some of the newer trends that we've seen and hopefully we'll continue to see. The term diet clearly gets a negative connotation. I even use it in a negative manner at times. It just kind of becomes a convenient use of the term. Diet technically just means any food or drink that you consume regularly. So all of us, from infant to elderly, we are on a diet, therefore we are dieting. I think it's more so thinking about as we go along in this video, I want you to think about that term and in your mind, how it feels when you say it. Do you feel negative when you think about that word? Does it make you feel some kind of way? Just something to kind of explore a bit. So now that we're into January a little bit, many people maybe have started their diets, different diets, maybe you've set out on some new goals. It's kind of good to start thinking about some of these best diet trends and why they are good if your goal here, probably on my channel, is to improve your health, potentially lose some weight. So start thinking about some of those things that we know work well. If you've watched my best of diet videos before, you've maybe heard a couple of these before, which makes total sense. If they are good ways of eating, they've clearly probably been researched if they come up time and time again. So it makes total sense to me and it makes me that much more comfortable when I work with individuals on these particular diets. I gotta say though, when I look into and discuss these diets with you and tell me what you guys think too, I never hear of anyone actually saying, I'm on this diet. So I find it interesting that these are the best diets, yet we never hear anyone actually talking about being on them. So going right into the number one, in no particular order, diet, the Mediterranean diet. So it's funny to me because obviously I don't live in Greece or Italy or anywhere like that, but where I live, I don't ever hear anyone saying, you know what, I'm starting the new year right, and I'm gonna put myself on the Mediterranean diet. Or even as a dietitian, when clients come to me, I don't really have people saying, hey, can you teach me more about the Mediterranean diet? So this is a diet that has been researched for quite a long time over in the Mediterranean area. So Greece, Italy, all those amazing places I have never visited, and this dang pandemic keeps cock blocking me. But someday. But anyway, this is just the style of eating that they do there. This is part of their culture with how they eat, and this is what then influenced calling it the Mediterranean diet. It's been studied for quite a long time and has been known to have great health benefits. So it's not so much a diet focused on helping you to lose weight. It's more about your overall health, improving your heart health and longevity with your life, which I think is really a lot more of the focus we should be taking. And when we do take that shift and take more of a health focused avenue, oftentimes people do see weight loss. So just because you're someone that does have weight to lose or you want to lose weight does not mean you can't take a health-based approach but then potentially still see weight loss. The Mediterranean diet, if you're not familiar, is a diet that is rich in whole grains, lots of plant-based foods, things like olive oil, nuts and seeds, fruits and veggies, things like fish, seafood, and poultry are eaten more in moderation. So this is not a vegetarian diet, but it does put a focus more so on your plant-based food items. Just to give you a little perspective on society and our culture, when you Google Mediterranean diet, you know how when you do a Google search, everything that comes up first, you usually get like a couple ads that'll reel you in. They are all to help you lose weight. So one is install a particular app. The next one is Mediterranean delivery kits. Ooh, that could be interesting. I'll look into that. Mediterranean diet, lose 21 pounds in 30 days. Mediterranean diet for weight loss. So when you Google search this stuff, you will still get a lot of heavily focused weight loss information, which is fine. I was just digging a little bit deeper to share with you. In particular, there's a lot of easy to digest information online regarding diet plans and things like that. If you were someone kind of looking for a bit more structure, right? Maybe you're someone that does not want to weigh your food. You don't want to count your food. You don't want to have a ton of foods off limits, which this diet really doesn't. It just says focus a bit more on this and focus a little less on this. That's really what we preach anyways overall, regardless of what type of diet we're working with clients on. Usually it's focusing more on certain things based on the individual, based on their medical needs, etc. You will see with the Mediterranean diet that a higher percentage of your calories do come from fat. And mostly it's the unsaturated fat. So it's not a high focus on saturated fats. It's really like olive oil based things. So you will see calories coming in a bit higher from fat, but I think we've blown through the stigma that fat is bad for us and that fat makes us fat or fat necessarily makes us unhealthy. We really need to be more focused on the types of fats that we're consuming and including more of the heart healthy focused ones. And that's really what this diet does, which is why so much research really does support the heart health aspect of things. Diet number 2, I think you'll find has a little bit of overlap with Mediterranean. In fact, you may see a little bit of overlap in all the ones we talk about today. The DASH diet. Another one I don't ever hear people saying they're on. Can you comment down in the comments below if you know people who've tried Mediterranean or DASH diet? Because I feel like you would probably be able to rattle off a list of how many people who have tried keto and Atkins, yet we don't know many people who have tried what's been studied as the best way of dieting. Blows my mind. What am I missing here, folks? Oh, I know. None of these promise you a magic poof weight loss like keto and Atkins did, right? Where you saw automatic drastic weight loss, which people care more about that than health. Okay. Moving on. DASH diet stands for Dietary Approach to Stop Hypertension. I don't work with a lot of people who their main goal is to reduce hypertension. Hypertension is a word for high blood pressure, essentially, but it is something to be cognizant of, because if you are someone with high blood pressure, that is a comorbidity that then makes you more susceptible to other health conditions. So it really is something to be considerate of, regardless of your age, regardless if you're in your early 20s or you're in your 50s. It does not matter the whole lifespan. We should be focusing on these things. You should be getting your blood pressure checked, and you should have some type of general idea of what your blood pressure runs. The DASH diet, being particularly focused on assisting in blood pressure, focuses a bit more on particular vitamins and minerals in your diet. So it really focuses on increasing your calcium in your diet, increasing your potassium, as well as your magnesium through the food sources you're consuming. And I love just reading that and kind of refreshing my memory on that, because I feel like we get so focused on diets that restrict this, restrict that, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, with no science behind it. Not that science isn't ever changing, it absolutely is, but it's just kind of nice to see a diet that's focused on good nutrients and what we need to focus a bit more of on our diet versus all the things we can't have. Although you do need to focus on sodium. And so one of the things that most Americans, I'm not sure about other countries, I didn't really look into that, but being that I'm US, most Americans overconsume sodium. So this in itself can lead itself to hypertension. It could be hereditary as well. But in terms of sodium, the DASH diet focuses on 2,300 milligrams a day and not exceeding that number. And comparatively, the majority of us consume on average of 3,500 to 4,000 milligrams per day, maybe sometimes even higher. So that's something to think about in terms of your health if this is a consideration for you. What I also really love about the DASH diet, so I only mentioned, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. What they focus more on is overall eating for the week. So it's not like you have to consume this every single day. It's over the course of a week, consume 6 to 8 servings of whole grains. Over the course of a week, try to make sure that you're consuming legumes or nuts and seeds, 4 to 5 servings a week. Lean proteins, 6 or less servings per day. Fats and sweets, let's try to limit those. Low-fat dairy, 2 to 3 servings a day. Fruits and veggies, 4 to 5 each per day. So I like that it kind of focuses a bit more on ranges and averages and things to aim for, which sometimes is the approach I take with my clients versus like a calorie tracking, weighing your food. Let's just focus on the right foods. Let's focus on servings. Let's focus on, and yes, that will require you to know what a serving is, right? So there is some education that needs to be done there, but focusing more on the foods you're eating and kind of getting that nice balance of everything. And yes, this diet is particular towards reducing hypertension, as I stated, but at the beginning of the video, remember I said sometimes when we focus on our health and make those healthier choices, that can also help with reducing our weight. So if you tried something like the DASH diet, maybe focused on your activity levels, increase that a bit, with all that, you could definitely lose some weight. And we do know weight loss absolutely helps reduce blood pressure, so they go hand in hand here. But another great diet that doesn't have any side effects, any major risks, any concerns for the long term, as well as the Mediterranean. Why aren't more people on these diets? The third diet I want to mention is the MIND diet, M-I-N-D. Have you heard of it? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. So this one I feel like isn't as popular, but is gaining a bit of popularity. It's a bit of a blend of the Mediterranean and the DASH diet. So this one stands for Mediterranean DASH Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. It was kind of a mouthful. As mentioned, it blends the two, the principles of all those foods I mentioned for the plant-based, higher consumption of those, kind of lowering your animal products a bit, high fruits, veggies, legumes, etc. But it has a little bit of a different twist on it in which it promotes foods in particular that have been known to assist in cognitive health. And research does support the fact that focusing a bit more on those foods can potentially help delay things like dementia and Alzheimer's and just overall delaying your decline of your cognitive health. And now I gotta say, even as a young lady, when I first started in my position, I work at a psychiatric hospital for the state of New York. I started very young, right out of college. And I had worked with the psych population before, and I had worked in lots of nursing homes. So I had a real special love for my elderly patients, and then I kind of combined that with my love for psych patients as well, because quite honestly, that term psych and working in a psych hospital gets this terribly bad rap that it really shouldn't for the most part. And this sounds sad, but anytime you see elderly patients, especially in a nursing home, they typically have mental health issues. Who wouldn't? When you're, living a long life in a nursing home, maybe lost your loved ones, things like that, things like depression happen, maybe even suicidal ideation, other things can occur, right? So I'll wrap this up, but my point is, from working with that population at such a young age, it really gave me this appreciation for mental health and dignity. And when I think about dignity, I think about it just like being able to feed yourself. I dealt with that a lot as a dietitian. When someone is incapable of feeding themselves and they have to rely on the staff in a nursing home or a hospital to feed them appropriately, or make sure that someone's coming up from OT or, even the dietitian to make a consult request for adaptive equipment with their eating. If they don't have the right tools in front of them and they're incapable of feeding themselves, it's a dignity issue. And could you imagine being that person incapable of being able to feed yourself and also having the mental capacity to ask for help? Yeah, that's like a whole thing. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole there, but I just have to say, we take for granted, especially younger population, take for granted our mental health and just kind of assume it's always going to be there. We just kind of think we're always going to be mentally witty and know what we need to do and be able to formulate sentences, which is even hard for me sometimes, depending on the day. But I just think it's something we take for granted. When you think about how much effort and focus people put on losing weight, which I'm not saying there's not good benefits to losing weight. I totally agree with that. But I think this is such a great thing to focus more on as well. So just want to put in my plug for that maybe you shift your focus to cognitive promoting type foods. So this diet in particular, same principles as DASH and Mediterranean. However, it really promotes eating a lot of berries, things like blueberries, tons of research with blueberries, raspberries, any of your berries, as well as dark griefy leans. Woo! Cognition. Check, 1, 2. Eating things such as your dark green leafy vegetables, or just green leafy vegetables. It doesn't have to be dark necessarily. I know when I say dark, I scare people. It's like kale and chard and things like that not everyone enjoys, but dark leafy greens in general. So those have been studied quite heavily in terms of their ability to potentially help delay onset of some of this cognitive decline. I'll be honest, scares the crap out of me. I had a couple grandparents, one with dementia, one with Alzheimer's. Very, very sad, very scary. It was very heartbreaking to see my grandmother not know her children. So something to think about. What a great diet, the Mind diet. Take a look at it. Very focused on plant-based, as I mentioned before with the other diets. Your animal intake is kind of limited a bit, so it's not as much a focus. And then things like berries and greens, eat lots of those. The fourth best diet of 2021, this is a diet I really enjoy, and maybe if you've followed the channel for a while, you've seen me use it through some of my bodybuilding preps, but this is the Volumetrics diet. This is something I haven't talked about a bit on this channel. It's been a little while, but the Volumetrics diet is really just an eating style, if you will. I mean, these are all eating styles, right? But Volumetrics, I think, kind of says it right there. So this diet's pretty straightforward, I would say. It's focusing on consuming foods that have a higher water content, higher volume content with water comparative to the actual calories or energy that is in the food item. For instance, fruits and veggies. Right out the bat, you think of that, right? Fruits and veggies we know are very water dense. That's something when I've had clients that struggle with hydration, they're not great drinkers. That's fine. Can we focus on increasing the foods in your diet that have a bit more fluid in them? So our fruits and veggies, high water density, something like a carrot, for instance. I love carrots. When you look at the ratio between the water in it comparative to the calories, that is a very high volume food. You really get a lot of fluid in there comparative to the amount of calories. So they've done some research on this with looking at actual food items, with how much they weigh versus how much energy is in the item. This can really help with folks in terms of weight loss or just a weight maintenance phase. And I know from my own personal experience when I was doing bodybuilding prep, you can probably find tons of recipes. Just like search in my YouTube channel. You can do that if you didn't know. I have tons of recipes in there, but I did a lot of high volume eating. You saw a lot of zucchini and cauliflower, and it's not because I couldn't eat carbs. I could eat carbs, but obviously they were getting cut down low due to a strict diet. So I would increase the volume of a lot of my foods by shredding up zucchini. Zucchini was honestly zucchini or cauliflower and oats, or in like oat bran, cream of rice, things like that. It was great. Or I would shred up zucchini and do it in like with potatoes, shred it up, add tons of veggies. I would just add in a lot of veggies, a lot of volume. I would make it a point to make a nice big salad every day. Because for me, when I was on prep, so dieting hard, right? And needed to lose weight, which was hard for me. I'm not a big person. I mentally needed to feel like I wasn't being restricted. That was huge for me. And I think this is the key for a lot of people to be successful. You don't ever want to feel like you're being restricted. When we feel restricted, that's when we feel the need to binge or go off the diet and say screw it. So you need to find a way to feel satisfaction. For me, I like to have nice bigger meals. So I'd always have a nice big salad, tons of greens, cucumbers, celery, those are very low calorie. But then I'd add in like peppers and carrots and tomatoes. Again, not very high calorie. Why do tomatoes and carrots get a bad rap? Because they have natural sugar in them. Calling your bluff on that being harmful to health. So for me, it was a great way to assist in feeling full. That way I could adhere to the strictness of a bodybuilding prep. That was probably one of the only things that got me through it. That, and I would do intermittent fasting, kind of narrow in the window of when I would eat my meals. it would just make me feel nice and full. It would mean I was eating for about like 5 hours. I would just eat a crap ton of food, which I got some looks at work for sure doing that, but it worked very well for me. So volumetrics, something to look into. There's tons of other things, just, focusing more on just your water in general, right? Instead of doing like sugary drinks or calorie dense beverages, you're mostly going to choose water. Even things like soups and stuff like that could be fairly low calorie, making them homemade, if you're watching the sodium intake, but there's lots of ways that you could play around with volumetrics in an unharmful way to maybe assist you in some of your goals. Now, these aren't necessarily like, if you look on Mayo Clinic, the top like best rated diets for 2021, but a couple trends that you guys noticed when I asked this on Instagram stories, and I noticed, I would say that one of the biggest trends coming through in 2021, and this may be more in the world of fitness, I'm not sure, let me know, but I obviously follow a lot of fitness people on Instagram, but intuitive eating. Intuitive eating, I feel like, has gotten a huge push the past couple of years, which I love to hear. I'm here for it. I think a lot of education needs to come along with it, because I think a lot of people who are used to diets, in terms of fad diets, if you will, I think some people struggle with the concepts of intuitive eating and the actual application of it. It's not just easy peasy. And I know on Instagram, some may make it seem very easy, like, I'm eating a croissant, I look really cute at a bakery, intuitive eating hashtag. And it's just not that simple. There's a lot more to the story, and there's probably a lot more to that person's story too who's posting that. But, it's just something that I think some people struggle with. They get frustrated, or they think intuitive eating means you can eat anything you want and it doesn't matter if you just eat crap, you're intuitive eating, that's got to be healthy. So there's a lot to unpack with intuitive eating. I highly recommend checking out the book, Intuitive Eating. That will give you all the guidelines and principles in there to kind of start to discover a bit. It's a lot to go through. It's something that was part of my curriculum actually with Becoming an RD. It's an excellent book. I recommend it to folks all the time. So check that out if that's something you're interested in. But intuitive eating, I should probably tell you what it is, right? I feel like it should be common sense, because as babies, we are born as intuitive eaters, right? We come out of our mama and we let that mama know when we're hungry. We say, "Mama, give me food." We cry, we get the food. When we're done, whether it's bottle or boob, we spit it out when we're done, okay? So our on-off switch for knowing what we want to eat, when we want to eat it, and when we're done, it is locked and loaded, babies. It's locked and loaded. And the peer pressure from anyone else, it doesn't exist. Like, the mom's not going to be like, "Oh, boo, you just ate 2 hours ago." No, if baby needs to eat, baby gets to eat. So you're born into this very intuitive world of how to eat. Where does it go wrong? It goes wrong as we tend to grow a little bit older. We have other influences. We have environmental influences. We have family, social influences. When you think back to what you ate when you were kids, your growing up, what you ate is based on what you were provided with. So whatever your family was eating, what was offered to you, that's what you grew up on. That's what you knew. I didn't know what an avocado was till I was 17. I'm not here to make fun of that. I'm just saying this is the reality. You only know what you're raised with. And so things get a bit shifted as you're a kid. I won't go too on about that, but we can definitely dive more into intuitive eating in other videos. I have plenty of other videos discussing it as well, but it's just more about a more mindful approach of being more in tune with your hunger and satiety cues, and also just kind of like being more aware of the foods you're eating, how they make you feel, what some of those like self-talk voices, if you have the voices in your head. I have the voices in my head, all right? I talk to myself a lot up here. A lot of the way we talk to ourselves. And part of that, another 2021 trend, is kind of anti-diet culture, right? So a little bit of diet culture engrossed in intuitive eating is ditching the diet mentality. Now, we said it earlier, diet, we're all on it, right? But it's kind of ditching the negative connotations that we have encompassed with that term. So for many of us, we've maybe created rules along the way. This is something I asked on my questionnaire to clients, and I've never had one tell me they don't have any rules. I don't know if they think it's a trick question. It's not a trick question. everyone has their own made up food rules. And a lot of that comes from diet culture. I think we've seen on social media this other trend about ditching that diet culture mentality and kind of learning how to push back on some of those ways of doing things or why you've done them, and really just digging a bit deeper as to, well, why is it you don't ever eat breakfast? Is it truly because you're not hungry for 4 to 7 hours in the morning? Or is it because at some point in your life, you felt like if I pushed back eating as long as possible, I'm gonna eat less and maybe I'll be smaller? That's just one example. It could be a multitude, and it could be a whole different scenario for you, even with that example provided. So I'm just saying, this is kind of a good push. I like that people are talking about it. Love seeing it. Love the intuitive eating push. Love the anti-diet culture, ditching the diet mentality push. I think for me as a clinician, it gets a little confusing when you have people so hardcore to the right saying if you're encouraging folks to lose weight, then you're part of diet culture. And that's just a bunch of bullshit. All right, you can do both. My job is to help people focus on their health and to focus on finding the best weight for them, the weight that's suitable and promotes a healthy environment for them. So I'm not gonna be told I'm doing something wrong because I'm doing my job. Okay. Those were some of my favorite diet trends of 2021 that we will continue to see in 2022. Love to see them. Hope to see some of you guys trying out some of these things. Let me know if there were any great diet trends you saw in 2021 that I didn't comment on in this video. And I'm also wondering, I didn't really dive down into the food trends because I feel like that's kind of something fun and separate. So I know we're like moving into 2022, but if you'd like to see me do a video on diet trends from 2021 and what I think we'll continue to see moving forward, then be sure to like this video. And again, let me know down in the comments if you guys do enjoy these videos. It means the world to me. If you do, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Take a moment to hit the like button. It does help push out my videos because I think YouTube hates me. They're like, this girl's been on here for way too long. We're gonna silence her. We're gonna push her down and bury her. So as much as you can do to share the videos, like, engage, it always helps. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you in the next video.